Months after his loss to Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 311, Umar Nurmagomedov's coach Javier Mendez was on his podcast and was talking about that fight and continues to make excuses. And I'm going to talk about why. This is just a bad look overall. My name is James Lynch. So credit to Red Corner MMA who clipped this from his podcast. We're going to watch what Javier has to say. Then I'm going to give my thoughts and why I don't think this is a good look. And I don't think this just is good for Umar either. When you have your coach out there basically giving excuses as to why you didn't win the fight in a fight, which I think most people felt like was awarded the right winner in Merab Dvalishvili. Let's hear what Javier Mendez has to say here in this clip.
So when I come back and I see him, he comes in, I go into the room and I see his hand and you look at his hand here and this finger's all the way down here broken. And I'm like, my eyes just got really wide, like, whoa.
Oh my God.
What the heck, and he was, I just said to him, I said what I felt. I said, you know what, Umar? I felt, in my opinion, I felt you won 3 out of the 5 rounds, and maybe I'm being biased, but I felt in the 5th round, the reason why you didn't win is because he showboated his way to winning that. Like,
yes.
He acted like the victor where you were tired, and that's why I feel he basically took it from you because you led him, but I felt you won, because when you're looking on damage and this and that, but when it comes to presence, he definitely got that. He got that. So, but the actual damage that he did was nothing compared to what Umar did. He did more, but again, he did show that I'm the winner, and Umar couldn't stop him, from showing that, so, I can see how the judges would get swayed on that,
Okay, so a couple things about this. Sorry, I played the clip again. Didn't mean to do that. So right off the top, he's talking about the broken hand. I don't mind that, but I mean, immediately after the fight ended, you saw all these different media members. I'm not going to explain why that was the case, but posting the photo of the broken hand. And look, credit to Umar for fighting with a broken hand, but this happens in a lot of fights where a fighter injures himself in the fight, and they persevere and they get through it. I feel like that's being overblown a little bit. I don't mind him talking about it, but just wanted to throw that out of the way. But this whole thing about the only reason that Merab won this fight is because he showboated in the 5th round is just complete nonsense. Does it help with the judges if you have your hands up at the end? I'm sure it does to a certain degree, but the judges have already tallied up their scores. And listen, Merab felt like he was up. He showboated. I get people not being happy about that, but Javier Mendez right here is saying that the only reason that Merab won basically is because he showboated at the end and the judges were swayed by that. That's just not true. Merab won the fight because he outstruck Umar Nurmagomedov. He had better cardio. He looked fresher. That's why he ended up winning the fight. And I feel like when Javier is saying things like this, you're really just taking away from the performance that Merab Dvalishvili did. And I don't know why this is still a talking point. Merab just got his next fight booked. He's going to be fighting Sean O'Malley. I did a whole video on that and why I don't like that fight. But focus on your next opponent. Like this stuff it looks like a sore loser here. You're now saying that, the only reason he won is because he was showboating. I mean, that's not why he won. Let's go look at the stats here. And again, the stats don't mean everything, but you can see it clear as day. Merab Dvalishvili outlanded Umar Nurmagomedov 111 to 259. He got 7 of 30 takedowns. He hit a lot of good shots. If you want to go round by round, Javier's right. In the 5th round, Umar did outland Merab Dvalishvili. However, overall, you can see Merab Dvalishvili did outland Umar Nurmagomedov. So it's one of those things where, like, for him to just go out here and now say that, if it wasn't for that, it would have been different. Was it a close fight? Yes. But I don't think that that's the reason that Umar lost. So, I mean, the two things that have sort of come out of this is obviously now the new thing is this showboating thing, which Javier just mentioned. But the other thing is the broken hand. Guess what? That happens in fights. How do you think Umar broke his hand? He broke his hand hitting Merab Dvalishvili. It's going to happen. Or I guess even if you want to go with the excuse of, Umar was injured going into the fight, so was Merab. Merab was injured too. No fighter's 100%. I just wish that, I don't mind coaches being like, I felt like he won. That I don't have an issue with that. Like, coaches are allowed to be a little bit biased. But to give a specific example and say, well, that's the reason, that I have a problem with. And I don't know why they can't just be humble about this and say, you know what? I mean, the perfect response here to this fight for most fans, most people watching fights would be like, look, ultimately, we came up short. We thought we won, but we came up short. We're going to go back to the drawing board, make some adjustments, and we will win the belt again. I'm fine with that. But this just comes across as like they're being screwed over. It's the judge's fault. It's because he broke the hand. It just sort of leads more into this narrative. And let me tell you right now, if this was the other way around, if it was Umar who won the fight and Merab was the coach, let's say John Wood as an example, came out and said that he was showboating, there'd be a riot on social media right now. People would be pissed about this. But because it's Merab, and Merab does have a pretty big fan base, nowhere nowhere near the size of Umar Nurmagomedov, but because it's the other way around, not many people are going to talk about this. It's going to be like, oh, shucks, and then we're going to move on. But if this was the other way around, the fans would be going after John Wood right now if he said something like this. But Javier Mendez, and he said stuff like this before where he just does not give credit to the opponents. That's just his style. I feel like he gets away with a lot of this, but I think here he deserves to be criticized. And if you want to go to the media scorecards, and again, this isn't the be-all, end-all, not a single media member scored the fight for Umar Nurmagomedov. Every single media member scored at 48-47. Again, you can see with the scorecards here, it was certainly a close fight. Was it a robbery? No. It was a close fight. It happened to go to Merab. I think if they fought again with a full camp and both guys are healthy, I think Umar can win. But that's the thing. You should be focusing more on that and not focusing on the past. And it just looks like you're being a sore loser here. And I don't hear nearly enough credit giving to Merab for that performance, not only from Umar's team, but also from fans as well. It's all about, if the broken hand didn't happen, Umar would have won that fight. Maybe, but that's not what happened. And he hurt his hand. His hand was hurt in the fight. It's going to happen. So, yeah, I just think it's a bad look overall. And, I wonder how Umar feels about this because, it's interesting. You hear from a lot of the fighters. Rarely sometimes you get it, but rarely you hear from fighters being like, oh, if this didn't happen, then I would have won, that type of thing. I think there was a quote from Umar after the fight. And I think he said something that got lost in translation that people maybe thought that he was kind of being a bit arrogant and wasn't accepting the loss. But I went and dug a little bit deeper. I couldn't actually find that. So I don't think Umar's like this at all. I think Umar's probably like, look, I lost. Let's get better. Let's work our way back up to the rematch. Let's win this. But I just think Javier Mendes is not doing any favors to his fighters by saying this. Really, the only reason that they won was because of the showboating. That's not why. It does help. I'm not going to sit here and acknowledge that it doesn't. If you're putting your hands up and going like this, it certainly does help. But I don't think that's the reason that fights are won. I think it adds a bit to it, but it certainly isn't something where it's going to sway the judges oh, that's the only reason, it's because he showboated. And look, like I said, there's always that debate on showboating or not. I think if you're decisively ahead in a fight, I think it's okay to showboat. I mean, it's not the best sportsmanship, but if you want to showboat a little bit, that's fine. But in a fight like this, that's a little bit closer, maybe I wouldn't be doing that. However, there was a lot of crap talked about Merab leading into this fight. Let's also talk quickly about the circumstances going into this, right? It was sort of Umar's team who wanted this fight at a certain point in the UFC. I think if Merab had his way, he would have had more time off to take the fight. That's not an excuse, but that's just, it's not the most ideal circumstances. How about he couldn't even work out at the PI because Umar's manager was making a point of not letting Merab use the PI because, oh, this is private, you can't come in here. Meanwhile, Merab lives in Vegas and trains in Vegas. Umar's the one, yes, he did his camp there, but he's not from Vegas. So there was that whole thing too. I just feel like the thing that annoys me about comments like this and everything in general, it's like everyone's going after Merab. No one's really sticking up for him. And now you've got people here that can't even accept the loss happened. That I got a problem with that. So yeah, bad look here, Javier Mendez. Again, I think the better solution here would be, look, we lost the fight, but we saw some things where we can make some adjustments. We're going to get better. We will get the rematch someday and we can win. I'm fine with that. But this is petty. This is really, really, really petty. And I think they're going to end up doing, by the way, Umar and Petr Yan next. I think that seems to make the most sense. They're the only fighters that aren't booked right now. And that could be a big fight in the Middle East if they wanted to do it. So we'll see what happens. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree with me here? Do you think this is kind of overdoing it a bit? I mean, this fight's a couple months old and now we're still revisiting parts of the fight and making it out like, well, if this and this and this happened, he would have won, or I thought he won, or that's, I don't like that stuff. Don't make excuses. Go back to the drawing board. Fix what needs to be fixed and move on. And the rematch is going to be great when it happens. I know these two are going to fight again, and I think it's going to be a great matchup, but focus on that and don't focus on the past. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.